Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. So I'm doing something a little bit different on my channel today. I'm going to be doing my first celebrity tarot reading, and basically I'll be giving you just a look into the lives of people who are well known. And the point of this series is not just for entertainment, and it's not just to like spy on well-known people. A lot of times when people are famous, they are able to give us a lot of life lessons that we normally would not be able to see. So we will observe someone who's in the public eye, and some of the trials and tribulations that they go through, we can relate it to our own lives and kind of learn a lesson through them. So that's kind of the point here. But on top of that, it is of course entertaining as well, just to hear about people who we look up to and who we admire. So that's what we're going to be doing with this series. I'll also be doing my content that I usually do, like the spirituality readings, the higher messages readings, and things of that sort. So this will just be like an add-on to the channel. So the first celebrity that we're doing is Marilyn Monroe, someone who is very iconic, someone who everybody knows. So I figure it would be perfect to start off with her. So let's dive into it. This reading might be a little long because I want to get into her childhood, her career, her fame, her love life, her sex life, her marriage to Joe DiMaggio, the John F. Kennedy scandal, and her impact on society. And don't worry, I'm not going to get too in depth. Like, I'm not going to do anything or say anything that would kind of be like an invasion to her privacy. So don't worry, I'm still going to, maintain boundaries while I'm doing these readings. So let's dive into it. We're going to start with her childhood first. Okay, I also wanted to note that when I do these readings, I'm going to be going based off of very little research because I want to do them intuitively. So I don't want to go based off of, what I'm reading online. So just keep that in mind. I've done little to no research before doing this reading. So the only thing that I really know about Marilyn's childhood is that she was in foster care. So what I'm getting intuitively is that Marilyn spent a lot of her childhood feeling very alone. Even when she was surrounded by a bunch of people, she still felt very alone. She felt like she wasn't cared for the way that other children were. I was picking up that she did not develop emotionally and psychologically at the same pace as other children because she was neglected. And I also did hear before that her mother had some sort of mental illness. It could have been schizophrenia, and that's why she had to be in foster care. So that makes sense that she would feel this sense of neglect or abandonment. I believe her father wasn't around either. So yeah, it looks like there may have been some mental health issues that developed at a young age due to her being neglected, due to her feeling abandoned and things of that sort. I am sensing that there were a lot of people around her, and this is going to sound a little spooky, so bear with me. There were a lot of living people around her, but there were a lot of people around her that also were not living. When she was a child, she was very, very spiritually in tune, like a lot of children are. You know how children, they say that they can see angels and they can see spirits. That's because children still have their, I guess you could say, psychic or intuitive abilities up until a certain age. And so they're very in touch with the spirit realm. I know that the first time I ever saw a ghost, I was probably like 5 years old. And so yeah, when she was that age, or when she was like young, when she was a child, she was very in tune with the spiritual realm. So sometimes she would spend more time in the spiritual realm than she spent in the real world, if that makes any sense. Like, you know how there's those kids who kind of play like, oh, I have an imaginary friend. A lot of the times they're interacting with the spirit. Doesn't have to be an evil spirit, doesn't have to be a demon. You have to, put that out there. But I feel like Marilyn was very in tune with spirits. I'm sensing that she had like she was a highly sensitive being. And so she could have been, in tune with that other realm. So the way that she escaped her childhood or escaped that feeling of abandonment was by her imagination, but it wasn't really her imagination. She really could kind of see or was in tune with spirits. I hope that this is not spooking anyone out, because this is actually quite common for children. I'm not saying that they just see dead people walking around, but they can sense spiritual energy. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, she also, I'm hearing maladaptive daydreaming. which is a coping mechanism that sometimes people use to escape from their reality, where they daydream all day long for hours and hours to escape the harshness of what's going on in their real life. So I am sensing maladaptive daydreaming from her. So she just had a very vivid imagination. Like, even though a lot of other children were developing mentally, emotionally, and psychologically at a quote unquote normal pace, she was definitely bypassing children when it came to creativity, without a doubt. She was definitely bypassing a lot of other children, because her, like I said, her mind was so vivid and her imagination was so vivid as an escape mechanism, but also because she was spiritually in tune. Sometimes she would have visions of like her past life, but then also she would have visions of her future life or what's to come for her. So I feel like she started getting like intuitive flashes of what she was to become when it comes to like her fame and her fortune. At that age, or in that age range while she was a child, she also started creating different characters in her mind that she would play, because again, this was a way for her to escape from reality. So her persona of Marilyn Monroe, it was like a character that she created. Even as a young child, she started to create that persona. So it was already in the works of becoming, of coming into fruition. I hope that this is not confusing anyone. So to recap this, she was a highly sensitive child. She was in touch with, spiritual energy. She was in touch with the spiritual realm. She was extremely imaginative and extremely creative, even though psychologically and emotionally she had issues because of, abandonment and things of that sort. And she started to create these alternative personas as a means of escape for her. And that could have been the blueprint or the beginning of her creating the Marilyn Monroe persona, is what I'm hearing. Let me see what else. I really hope that part doesn't spook anybody out. I'm not saying that she was like walking around like the Sixth Sense, seeing like scary dead people. Like, it was not like that. So I hope it didn't come across that way. Let me see what else. Yeah, I just feel like I've heard before that she may have had borderline personality disorder, which of course that means that would have developed during this time, like during her childhood. Yeah, I am sensing just being under a lot of emotional and mental distress. So I wouldn't be surprised if she did have some sort of mood disorder or personality disorder. But again, the silver lining of that is the hypersensitivity, which leads to a child being very spiritually aware and also very creative, more than the average person. When it comes to her mother, her and her mother had a very complicated relationship. Obviously, her mother struggled from some sort of mental illness. So her and her mother had a very complicated relationship. She was very attached to her mother, naturally, as all children are. But at some point, she felt like she had to detach from her mother because it was just very painful. I know I read at some point in time, she actually, like during her fame, or as she got famous, she would tell like the tabloids that, her mother had passed away or had died, which was not the truth. But it was kind of the truth to Marilyn, because she could not have a normal relationship with her mother due to her mother's mental illness. So that took a very, very big toll on her. She could not communicate with her mother in the way that other people could communicate with theirs. And so that's something that she never fully, I would say she never fully healed from. But she made peace with it, is what I'm seeing. She eventually made peace with it, but it was obviously very painful for her as a child to not have that, is what I'm seeing. All right, so let's move on to her career / her fame. All right, so when it comes to her career, I am seeing that she definitely had a love and a passion for her career path. It's something that, like I said, it was in the works before she even knew it was in the works. Like when she was a child and she was very much like in her head and playing these games in terms of like imagination and creating like this fantasy world and this fantasy life in her head, it's like it was kind of in the works for her to go into show business. It seemed to me like, or it seems to me that this was something, that her career was something that was very destined. It was something that was very fated, and that's why it started coming into fruition even when she was a child. I feel like her career is where she started to really felt like, where she really started to feel like she matters, because as a child she kind of felt like she didn't. She felt sort of invisible, so her career sort of made her feel seen. People definitely were very drawn towards her. Obviously, she's Marilyn Monroe. They were very drawn towards her, and so that sort of filled a void for her, for her is what I'm saying, because she longed for human connection and human just interaction. Like she really wanted that close knit family that she never really got a chance to have. And so it's sort of like she was hoping that her career and this path that she was on would give her that. And it did draw a lot of people towards her. So it did work in a way. I'm going to pull one more card for that because I feel like there's something that's missing here. Because I'm getting that it worked for her in a way, but then in a way it didn't work. Control. Oh, okay. All right. I see exactly what's going on here. Yeah, it worked for her in a way, but in a way it didn't work because a lot of people were very phony and fraudulent. The people who were drawn towards her, it was only for her fame or for her, fortune, her success. And so she came to find that it wasn't filling the void, because although a lot of people wanted to be around her, it's like they didn't really love her for her, if that makes sense. They loved her persona, they loved her fame and her fortune. So it worked, like her being famous and successful, it worked towards, getting a lot of people to want to be around her. But she came to find that she still felt alone. The control card is here. So there were also a lot of people around her who wanted to control her in some way, shape, or form, who wanted to control her career. It was just, she just could not find those genuine connections that she was longing for. It just turned into a lot of just career politics is what I'm hearing, if that makes sense. It's like it turned into a lot of, well, I'm your friend, but I'm your friend because you're opening this door for me, or you're doing this for me. Or there's people who would try to befriend her, who would say like, oh, let me help you with your career. Like I'm sensing people who would try to come and ask her to be her manager or something along those lines. It's like people were flocking to her, but for the wrong reasons, and she just felt very, very disconnected. It's like the more famous she got, the more disconnected she started to feel from people, and the more she longed for that connection with people, if that makes sense. I do see here that her career, it has something to do with a past life that she was supposed to like finish out a past life cycle. So this wasn't her first lifetime being famous, is what I'm seeing. Something happened in a previous lifetime where she was famous, and it's like she didn't get to live out that dream, or it could have been in a previous lifetime she wanted to be famous and didn't get a chance to live it out. So in this lifetime as Marilyn Monroe, she finally got to live out that dream, but at the same time she was very, very dissatisfied. I think that what her soul wanted in this lifetime was to not only live out that that career and that dream, but also wanted to just make genuine, solid connections. And so that's why she always felt so unfulfilled. Even though her career was on the right path, she still felt fulfilled. I think that her biggest soul mission, or her soul longed for the connection more than it longed for the fame and more than it longed for the success. But she had a very, very hard time finding it. It's something karmic here. It's like some sort of karmic something that went on in her past lives that carried over into this one, that kind of made it very difficult to have genuine connections and success at the same time. Very unfortunate. Because I feel like she just really longed for that. I do sense some codependent energy. I do sense that she would get very, very attached to people who she considered like friends and things of that sort. And that's only because she felt like she didn't have many people who truly understood her or truly cared about her. So it makes sense that she would cling on to the ones that she thought that they genuinely did. And when they would end up betraying her, obviously that would be extremely painful for her, is what I'm seeing. Yeah, it's a lot of people who owe her karmic debt. Like, it's a lot of people who did things to her during her career that just really were just very unfair and very unjust. And so if she did, get a chance to come back and have like another lifetime, a lot of people would owe her. Like, a lot of people would owe her karmically, because it looks like she was done wrong by a lot of people in terms of her career and her success. Which she was in show business, so that doesn't shock me. So I am seeing here that Marilyn was an extremely, extremely strong, bold, courageous woman. Despite the fact that she was very emotionally fragile, she was extremely bold and was not afraid to take risks. Like I said, she was very spiritually in tune, so her intuition was guiding her throughout her career, guiding her on, what risks to take, what roles to take. It's like her intuition was telling her, take this leap of faith, take this role, take this. And each time it would work out in her favor. So even though, this is, there was some sad information here about her not having those connections, the good news is that you know, she definitely did grow and evolve as a person through her career, because it definitely made her much stronger, and it helped her to really listen to her intuition and to follow that path. And that's why she saw a lot of success. I also was hearing that, you know, she was judged very harshly, and a way that she dealt with that was her Marilyn persona, because she felt like when people attack me, when people judge me, they're attacking and judging Marilyn. They're not attacking and judging me, because I'm not really Marilyn. Like, they don't really see the real me. They don't really know the real me, if that makes sense. So Marilyn was kind of like a persona that was also like a shield to her. Like, Marilyn was like that strong, bold, courageous woman that took action. But there was like this very sensitive, you know, wounded inner child inside of her that she was trying to shield. And that's the part of her that really longed for connection, really longed for, you know, friendship and things of that sort. So it was just it was very conflicting. It was like she was two people at once. And the public saw her Marilyn side, but other people who got close to her could see that wounded inner child that just wanted to be loved, and they would, you know, they would take advantage of that, unfortunately. How sad. But I do hear that she was very grateful, you know, for her career. She was very grateful, very thankful, and her soul was very happy and pleased, because when we come here, our soul does usually have some sort of mission that it's aiming towards, or some sort of goal that it's aiming towards. And so she was happy on a spiritual level when it came to her success, because it was meant for her to have this. It was meant for her to complete this mission. But it looks like, you know, the only area she was unhappy with or unhappy in was, you know, her personal life, is what I'm seeing. So we're going to pull for her love life. All right, so I pulled for her love life and her sex life. And of course, I'm not going to get vulgar about her sex life, but I wanted to touch base on this because what I'm getting intuitively is very different than I have read about, or like other people would guess, because I have come across articles and things of that sort in the past of people saying that she was promiscuous and things of that sort. I'm not seeing that here. I'm really not seeing too much promiscuity. Even if she was, obviously there would be no judgment here, but I'm not really seeing that. So it could be that a lot of those stories from people are fabricated, because I'm seeing here that no, she wasn't very promiscuous. It looks like she knew to use her sex appeal to get her what she wanted at times, but I don't think she would go all the way with people, because the Knight of Wands is here in the reverse. I don't think she would go all the way with people. And when she did, like in the past, like throughout her life, when she did choose to go all the way, it looks like sometimes they would end up betraying her or stabbing her in the back. There was trust issues that was here. So it got to a point where she was very, very careful about who she had relations with. But I do see here that yes, she would use her, you know, her feminine charm or her feminine wiles to get what she wanted at times. But promiscuous, no, I'm not really seeing that. I'm really not. So a lot of that could be fabricated, is what I am seeing. Especially as she got older, is what I'm hearing. Like I said, she was sensitive, very sensitive. So she had to shield herself from people's energy. So being promiscuous, no, probably not. Even if she was promiscuous at maybe one point in her life, something did turn around and she stopped being that way. I do see that she was kind of impulsive as well, is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing like an impulsive energy. So sometimes she would hop into connections with people and then they just wouldn't go well. And she would get used and stabbed in the back because sometimes she was very impulsive. Like if she felt a pull towards someone, then she would, you know, connect with them very quickly. And some of these people obviously could not be trusted. So yeah, that happened to her a lot as well. But I'm not really getting too much promiscuous energy here. I'm just really not picking that up. When it came to love, I do see that relationships kind of acted as a band-aid for her to help her to not feel so abandoned, because the outsider card is here in reverse. So that's her inner child wanting to be accepted and loved. And so she would use relationships like that in a way sometimes, even if they were just short flings. I am seeing that it helped kind of soothe like her inner child or her abandonment wound, is what I'm seeing. Also, a lot of the connections that she ended up having, like a lot of people who she was seeing that like the public knows about, like her husbands and things of that sort, they were people who she was destined to cross paths with, is what I'm seeing. And they were meant to help her to evolve and to heal those inner child wounds, which, you know, we're all familiar with that, when it comes to soulmates and what they're meant to do. So a lot of them were destined. She was destined to come across people who were going to help her on her path. So this whole like narrative about her being promiscuous and things of that sort, I'm just really not seeing it. I'm not. If it occurred at some point, there was a turning point, is what I'm seeing. I also see here that when it came to love, there was one point in time where she may have given up. She could have felt like love was just, it was causing her to deteriorate mentally and emotionally. And so she may have given up on love at one point in time, but it's like she could never fully give it up, because in her heart of hearts, she always wanted to find her one true love, her soulmate, you know, her life partner. So even if she kind of said to herself, like, I've given up and things of that sort, in her heart of hearts, she never gave up on love. I'm just sensing like very hopeless romantic sort of energy. And so it's like, even if she were to say no, she couldn't. She really couldn't. Her heart couldn't say no. And I am seeing here that, oh, this is sad. I am seeing here that her life was cut short, and she may have found her true love kind of later on, but her life was cut short, so she may have not got to experience like that real deep true love that she was longing for. Oh, that's very sad. Yeah, that's very sad. I'm gonna pull one more card for that. Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like she may have gotten a chance to experience that true love and that true happiness, but her life was cut short. But I feel like with the Justice card being here, she will be able to have an opportunity to do that. So it's possible that she could reincarnate or have another life where she is going to experience that, is what I'm seeing, because her soul still longed for it. Even when she herself said, you know, I give up on this, her soul still longed for it. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. She definitely grew as a person through her love connections. Like, I feel like her career and her fame really taught her a lot about herself and helped her to evolve as a person, but not as much as her interpersonal relationships. Those are the things that her interpersonal relationships are the thing that really helped her to become very self-aware and to kind of spiritually evolve way more than her career. And you would think it would be her career because she was so famous on a large scale, but nope, her interpersonal relationships were even more transformative to her than her actual career. And I do see here that she started to become spiritually awakened through each interaction, or each time she had some sort of romantic partnership that didn't go well. It's like she was taking what she learned and she was actually growing from it and expanding her mind. It wasn't just like senselessly jumping in and out of relationships. Each time she sat and reflected. Like, this woman was just very spiritually aware. She was very aware, very conscious, woke, I guess you would call it in today's terms. I'm definitely seeing that here. Like, if she was alive today, I wouldn't be shocked at her like watching love readings or even being a tarot reader, like that sort of thing. She was very much aware of the fact that these love relationships were meant to teach her something. But even though she was aware of that, her being disconnected from people and never really finding her real love, it still bothered her. It still bothered her a lot. But I feel like you know, she'll be able to get that second chance at it, because I do see that she, you know, reincarnates here. Then her main soul purpose would be, you know, to develop those harmonious relationships. So let's move on to her marriage. I wanted to look into her marriage with Joe DiMaggio, I believe his name was. All right, so let's get into her marriage with Joe DiMaggio. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. So I know that they ended up divorced, but like I said, I did very little research on them before you know, doing this reading. So what I'm seeing for their overall energy is the Four of Swords. So this is how their marriage started out. It started out very peaceful. I mean, of course, or they wouldn't have gotten married in the first place. But I do see that at some point it transitioned into, it's like both of them transitioned into just being very confused about what it is that would make their marriage work. I feel like their marriage was kind of doomed from the start, is what I'm seeing, because what I'm hearing is that it was built on them trying to fill a void in each other, is what I'm seeing. So even though they found peace, quote unquote, and comfort in each other, there was still some things that were missing within themselves as individuals. And so at some point they stopped filling that void for each other, especially because they were a little incompatible. Like their lifestyles were just kind of different. The way they thought was different. They were just different. And I think that the only thing that was drawing them together was this, like I said, filling this void, filling this void within each other, because I am seeing the devil card here in reverse. So at some point in their relationship, they realized that things were just toxic, and for me, it just looks like just not compatible. It's not that either of them were bad people. It just looks like there was like this incompatibility that they both became aware of. I believe that she's the one that ended up filing for divorce, and I am seeing that they never really stopped thinking about each other, or they never fully got over each other. There was still some very strong like tie that they had. It's very possible that they had past lives together, like besides that lifetime, and that's why they played out this cycle with each other. It was like some sort of unfinished business. I'm going to pull one more, and I'm hearing that the business is still unfinished for some odd reason. Well, her life was, tragically cut short, so that could be the reason why it still feels unfinished. Pull one more. Yeah, it still feels unfinished, especially because the Ace of Pentacles is here, meaning that at some point they could have wanted to get back together. He could have wanted to get back together with her, or she could have wanted to get back together with him, but it did not happen, is what I'm seeing. So it was unfinished, for sure. He's coming up as the King of Swords. So him being the King of Swords, it's like he's someone who uses his logic. That could have been something that was not working within their relationship, because she was a logical person as well, but I feel like she was more in tune or in touch with her emotions, and so they would clash with that at times. Also, I feel like she was a bit more open-minded than he was. He was a bit like kind of set or stuck in his ways. And also, I don't think that he liked the amount of attention that she got, because I'm sensing a fear, like a fear of infidelity, or a fear of, this is a fear on his end, a fear of her keeping secrets. I think it's because of her lifestyle or her career. There was this fear in him. It's like he used his logic to draw conclusions, like, okay, so she is famous, or she is successful, she has a lot of people who throw themselves at her, so logically it makes sense that she could possibly cheat, or she could possibly keep secrets, or it's something along those lines. It's like he was drawing those types of conclusions, even though they weren't necessarily true. He would just draw conclusions based off of the things that he didn't know, or the things that he couldn't see. He would just fill in the blanks with negativity, and so that definitely did not help their relationship at all. The way that she felt about him is that she felt like the life that she wanted to continue to build and create for herself, that he just wasn't with that. If that makes sense, is what I'm hearing. It's like the life that she wanted to create, he did not want that type of life, which she didn't see that as a bad thing, but she saw that it was clashing. They were clashing with each other, and she kind of saw that as she continued to grow and expand, that it was just going to become more of a problem for him. But she didn't see him as a bad person. She just saw him as someone who just was different, had a different lifestyle from her. He wanted a very stress-free sort of lifestyle, sort of like low-key lifestyle, and obviously that wasn't her. In terms of on his end, how he feels about her, or he felt about her, he felt like she needed to be more mature, is what I'm seeing. Yeah, I feel like I'm just getting a very playful energy from her, like she wanted to go and explore the world, like this playful sort of energy. And for him, it just seemed like he just wanted her to kind of grow up and settle down. Their lifestyles were just very different. I don't even know how they ended up together, in all honesty. Yeah, well, like I said, filling a void. More than likely, she had a desire to be seen. Like, she had a desire to be seen for who she is outside of, being Marilyn Monroe. And he definitely did that. Like, he actually saw into her, like, who she really is and truly is as a person. He wasn't, like, blinded by all the glitz and the glamour. So I feel like that's kind of the void that he was filling. In terms of the void that she was filling, I feel like he already had, like, I wouldn't say an obsession with her, but it was something about her and her status that really filled some sort of void in him. Not just her status, but just who she was as a person. I'm feeling that he was really drawn towards the fact that she was kind of an anomaly. Like, you would expect her to be one way, and then she was completely different. Like, because she was so, you know, larger than life and so beautiful and glitzy and glamorous, you would expect her to be a certain way, like a certain stereotype, and behind closed doors she wasn't. And so that was very appealing to him. But yeah, they definitely filled some type of a void in each other, but in the end they were incompatible. But they did at one point want to get back together, but it ended up not happening. Very interesting. Let's move on to her alleged affair with JFK. All right, so let's get into the alleged affair that she had with the president, John F. Kennedy. So for their overall energy, I feel like they saw eye to eye on a lot of things. They had a lot in common that a lot of people wouldn't suspect. I feel like the general public sort of saw their affair as like just being based in lust. And I'm saying alleged, and I'm putting affair in air quotes because it's not been confirmed. But the general public would kind of assume that it was just like a lust thing, obviously, because they see he's a powerful man and she is a powerful but very like beautiful, glamorous woman, very seductive. And so it just looks like on the surface there would just be lust, but that's not the case. They had a lot of things actually in common. I am hearing that they had a lot of conversations where they, you know, they stimulated each other's minds. Also, I feel like, you know how Marilyn, how I said that she had like this kind of persona or this wall up to protect, you know, who she really was underneath? He kind of had that same thing going on. He obviously came from a very powerful position, or I'm actually hearing he came from a powerful family. I'm not sure who he was related to or who his family was. I know his brother, Bobby Kennedy. Maybe the Kennedys were like, I have no clue. I was terrible at history and when I was in high school. But I'm hearing that he came from a powerful family, but also he just had a very powerful, prestigious, you know, position. Okay, sorry if the audio sounds a little different. My recorder just cut off suddenly. But like I was saying, John F. Kennedy, he had to put up kind of a wall and a shield himself because of the fact that he was in, you know, such a prestigious position, and he was judged a lot due to, you know, his position of power. It's like he had to kind of put up a wall as well, the same wall that Marilyn had to put up. So it looks like they related to each other in that way. I am sensing a past life connection, a very strong one between them. So it's like they felt this magnetic pull towards each other from the very start, and that's because there was some past life energy that was there from the start. So I am seeing here that they were very, it's like the traits that they had within themselves was like a weakness to the other. So, you know, it's like those traits that you find just very, very appealing, you know, in the opposite sex or the same sex, depending on what you're into. It's like that, like they had the other person's weakness within them is what I'm seeing, to the point where it's like they were just very magnetically pulled towards each other. It was something that they kind of couldn't control. And again, I'm not confirming that they had an affair, but everyone knows that they had some sort of connection. So I am seeing also that I think I mentioned this already, but I'm hearing it again, that their connection was not one that the public would suspect, meaning that a lot of people would think, oh, this is just some sort of sexual thing or like surface level thing, and that definitely was not the case. Not from what I'm seeing anyway. I am also seeing that one of them, I'm not sure which one, was a little more emotionally invested. They felt like this other person was like their destiny, or they were destined to be with them, but there was a bunch of obstacles that was in the way, and that caused just a lot of distress. And again, I'm not seeing which one of them that is, but definitely one of them felt like, oh, this is my destiny, or this is the person who I'm supposed to be with, or I know I came across this person for a reason. But it's like there were so many just big obstacles in the way. Like there was no way this connection could have flourished. It kind of reminds me of like Olivia and Fitz off of Scandal, like that. I am also seeing, though, that the connection actually was a turning point in one or both of their lives. One of them or both of them was going down a path that was basically headed the wrong way, and this connection was basically a turning point within their path to specifically get them on a different track. I hope that that's making sense. One of them or both of them were going down a pathway that just was not the right way. This relationship was supposed to be kind of like a catalyst or something that is like a roadblock to put one of them or both of them on in the right direction, if that makes sense. So how she felt about him, she definitely was attracted to the fact that he was so powerful. With the official person card coming out here, it's like she was magnetically pulled towards him and his authority. And I feel like there may have been some childhood triggering that was here, because I am seeing that it was kind of like her inner child was drawn towards him. It's possible that her inner child was drawn towards powerful people in general. It could have reminded her of a parental figure that she was lacking. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, she was definitely drawn towards how powerful he was. But then also there was a past life connection. So there was a part of her that felt like she could just trust him. And she didn't understand why. She just had this natural urge to trust him. And that's because they already had connections in past lives. But of course, she wasn't fully aware of this. She was aware of this subconsciously and intuitively, but not fully. I am also seeing here that his marriage did, of course, that was a barrier here. I mean, it's kind of hard to not pick that up in this type of energy. But yeah, with the main female card being here in the reverse, that means that she would have had to remain the secret, and that didn't sit well with her, especially with the fact that she did not get the proper amount of love and nurturing growing up. Having to be like the other woman or being a secret, quote unquote, it just would have been very triggering for her, is what I am seeing. Very triggering. And again, I am not saying that they absolutely had an affair. This is all alleged. So, God, those loud sirens outside. So, I'm also seeing here on his end that, again, he also felt like she was someone that he could trust. And this carried over from a past life. And he also felt like she was very talented, felt like she was very gifted. He felt like she had a lot to offer the world besides what other people saw in her. Like, they only saw the physical, and he knew that she had a lot more to offer. He saw her as someone who could be extremely loyal, extremely trustworthy. I am also seeing that, sheesh, okay, this is like taking a huge risk sort of energy. Again, I'm not saying that they absolutely had an affair. This is all alleged, but I'm seeing risk energy. Like, I'm willing to take that risk. Yikes. Okay. At some point, they did have some sort of falling out, and I definitely picked up on that. But the message is a little bit confusing about their falling out, because I got the community card in reverse. So the community card talks about turning the public against the other. And so it could have been a thing where one threatened to turn the public against the other, but I'm not sure which is which, because they both had the ability to kind of turn the public on each other, depending on what they told the public or what came out. So it was hard to kind of tell from my cards exactly who was doing this to who, or who was saying to who, like, the public will hate you, or I can turn the public on you, or something along those lines. It just got really nasty. Like, as I was like shuffling my cards, I'm like, how the hell did it get to this? Because it started out with this like very strong bond and like this trust, but then it turned into some sort of weird legal blackmail sort of thing. It turned into some weird shit in my cards. Just strange. I did also see that because of who JFK was, like, because of his position of power, he had to be a very selfish person. It's like he had to be that way in order to hold the position that he held. And so he had to make decisions that would benefit him. And Marilyn knew that, but it was still very triggering for her, because there was times where he had to make very selfish decisions that kind of did not benefit her or could have hurt her in some way. And it could have been very triggering for her, because, like I said, she did have very deep rooted abandonment and rejection wounds. And so being with a man who just, first of all, it was in his nature to be kind of selfish, but second of all, because of his position of power and because he was married and all those things, it's like those things have to come before her. So his connection with her was just, it was triggering. It was triggering to her. Let's just say that. Yeah, in terms of them falling out, the Four of Pentacles is here. So a lot of secrets, a lot of things being hidden when it comes to them falling out. Someone wanting to take the high road, like wanting to be the bigger person. Sorry, this is very confusing. Every time I try to pull cards for their falling out and what happened, it just gets really staticky and strange. Because it's like secrets, things being kept close to your chest, meaning things that are of value, like secretive information that are of value being kept close to you so that no one would know. Someone trying to act with integrity and take the high road. What is this? I don't like this energy. Because the unexpected income card, it to me is reading as like paying someone off. And I was picking up on something legal that took place. But it was never, I was hearing specifically, it's not about the money. So someone could have offered someone money to keep quiet. But it was kind of like, no, because it's not about the money. Is what I'm seeing. Every time I try to pull for this, it just gets really, really weird and confusing. I'm going to try to pull one more. Courtship, concern, lovers. Yeah, this is them falling out for sure. And there was a lot of communication here that was just very like, just not good. A lot of toxic communication back and forth. At some point, it's like they weren't even communicating directly with each other. It was like, have my people call your people. Like, it got to that point, is what I'm hearing. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of stress. I don't know what the hell happened here. Things just kind of took a turn for the worst when it came to their connection. And I'm not sure why, because it's like, it's hard for me to interpret what these cards are trying to say, but it's something that has to do with the legal system. But yeah, the courthouse card, again, it's something that has to do with the legal system. It's something that has to do with like an exchange of money, like offering money, but then someone saying no because it's not about the money. And then there's like secrets, things that are hidden. Just a lot of weird shit went on. But I do know that it got to a point where they were not even interacting with each other directly. It was like I said, my people will contact your people sort of thing. And his marriage also played a role. Well, obviously his marriage played some sort of role in this as well. Someone trying to take the easy way out, or someone taking the cowardly way out. I don't know, maybe y'all can piece that together, because I'm just very confused. Every time I try to pull for this scandal, it's just confusing as hell. I don't know what is going on. I know at some point someone started seeing someone else. Courtship card is here. Someone started like something new in the midst of all of this. I'm guessing it may have been Marilyn that started something new, started some sort of new romantic connection or something like that in the midst of all of this when this was all going on. But yeah, this fallout, it really just came out of left field. I'm not sure how things escalated so quickly. Guilt. Yeah, after taking a risk and just kind of just blindly taking a risk, there's then guilt about it, of like putting a lot of people in jeopardy because of it. Now, if they actually did have an affair, then this would make sense. That it would be like, oh, I'm just going to go for it and take that risk and go ahead and do it. And then later on think, okay, wow, I put a lot in jeopardy here. A lot is in jeopardy here. But I feel like, oh, Marilyn, I just feel like she just wanted like her happy ending, like her fairy tale sort of ending. I feel like that was her whole, if they had an affair, it just feels like that was maybe her aim or like her goal here, because the dream card is here. She just, wants to be loved. And she wants to nurture and soothe and heal her wounded inner child and her, abandonment and rejection issues. Is what I'm seeing. And she kind of played those out, in this connection with the president. Unfinished business. If they were to reincarnate, they would have serious unfinished business here. Serious unfinished business, without a doubt. Yeah, so maybe y'all can piece that together. I have no clue. All right, so let's dive into her impact on society, and then we will get into the extended video. All right, so her impact on society. So we have the slowing down card in reverse and the compromise card. All right, so what I'm hearing is that society was at kind of a standstill when Marilyn was famous. If it wasn't at a standstill, it was progressing, but it was not progressing as quickly as it could have been. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this, because I'm trying to explain this from like a spiritual viewpoint. Us as a collective, we evolve at certain periods of time, right? Like you can see with technology, like there's certain decades where technology starts to flourish quicker than others, certain inventions and things of that sort. So us as a collective, we evolve and grow at a certain pace. And sometimes it's like we can get very stagnant, or we can get kind of behind when it comes to how we're supposed to be evolving. Because when it comes to our spiritual growth, you know, we have certain things that we need to complete this lifetime. It's the same thing when it comes to us as a collective. Like think of our individual soul paths, and then think of our soul path as a collective group. So basically during that time, the collective was kind of stagnant. It was moving in the right direction, but it wasn't moving as quickly as it should have been. And so Marilyn actually played a very big role in pushing the collective forward, which is, it sounds really crazy because of the fact that she's only one person, but look at how iconic she is, and look at how she still is, you know, extremely famous, well known. You know, she still is like that poster of beauty. She still is like that glamorous icon that everyone knows. So it makes sense that she had such a huge impact. So basically she moved society forward by helping people to break out of certain societal norms. I'm hearing identity crisis. So I feel like a lot of society was having some sort of identity crisis within themselves, and they were very imbalanced. And that's because a lot of them had to kind of hide who they were as a person. There was a lot of shame that was present during that time. And again, we were moving out of that as a collective, slowly but surely, but we weren't quite there. And so she acted as like this representation of a shameless figure, like someone who was, especially her being a woman, someone who was very who just used their sex appeal and their feminine wiles, and was just shameless about it. That was something that was not really seen, or it wasn't really seen at trying to figure out the best way to describe what I'm hearing. It's something that wasn't seen on a large scale, put it that way. And so a lot of people who were struggling with identity crisis, who kind of felt like they had to hide who they are, they felt free to break out of their shell because of Marilyn. And that is a very big deal. Like it might sound like it's not, but it is, because just one person suffering obviously is a tragedy. But imagine like a whole society suffering because they can't be who they are, because they are kind of entrapped by shame. It's like all of us suffer that as a collective. Like, you know firsthand, or you may have seen firsthand, when people come together and they pray together, or if a lot of people are afraid at the same time, you could feel that energy. So you can imagine a lot of people, a whole collective of people having like an identity crisis or dealing with shame at the same time. It's like you could feel it very strongly within the collective. So yes, one woman like this being shameless and showing the way to be shameless, it can cause a ripple effect throughout society. And that's why she is so famous today, is what I am seeing. And I hope I conveyed that the right way, because that really is a big deal. It might not sound like it, but it really, really is. Just think about how disconnected you feel when you want to be yourself, but you're not accepted. So you just hide who you are. That can cause just a lot. That can cause psychological disorders, actually. And her going through that, she went through that herself, and kind of was able to overcome that by creating this Marilyn Monroe persona, which basically helped other people to break free from their societal norms and for them to be a bit more shameless. So she moved the collective forward in a very huge way. So that's what I'm getting for her. I will extend this, and the way that the extendeds work is that usually less people watch the extended, so I can get more specific with my messages. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing, is getting more specific with, you know, the lessons that Marilyn may be meant to teach you. So I hope that this was helpful. The link to the extended will be in the description box down below. Thank you guys for watching, and leave suggestions for, you know, if you want to see more of this series and who you may want me to do the energy reading on.